Hi again, welcome back. It's getting hot here in Southern California. Tomorrow we have family coming in to swim all day, and I'm planning ahead for kind of just nibble food, finger food, served with a big salad, just so we can stay light. I want it to be easy. I have two make-ahead recipes that are my favorite go-tos from Ottolenghi, simple. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. The first recipe that we're making is shrimp and corn fritters. They're absolutely delicious. You can see I take a lot of notes in my cookbooks, but Ottolenghi weighs everything. This is about 12 and a half ounce of shrimp. This was frozen. I buy it frozen, and I thawed it overnight. There's a lot of water that pours off, so this was almost about 15 ounces to begin with. And once it thawed, the water was poured off, I took the tails off. Now we're at about 12 and a quarter ounce. So let's double check. I have some sweet corn that I'm going to cut, and the shrimp goes into the food processor along with the corn. Let me show you how I cut corn because it can be a horrible mess. These long, narrow measuring spoons have changed my life because they get into the jars so easily. And the last thing is a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and about a 1/2 cup of rough chopped cilantro, or 10 grams. And again, I measure, especially when it comes to herbs. Two hefty teaspoons of lime zest because the lime actually makes this dish. So just a few quick pulses here because we just wanted to kind of amalgamate, but we don't want it to be, we want it to have little chunks, and we don't want it to be too baby foodish. So that's how it looks. So this is no different than a meatloaf, except it's easier. You don't have to get your fingers into it. So give it a little quick stir, make sure all the flavors are incorporated. And then I'm putting it in a glass container to be cooked off tomorrow. But before I do that, I'll show you how to cook the fritters. It's so easy. Two things about Ottolenghi's recipe. One is he recommends using or suggests using frozen corn. I used fresh, but so obviously the frozen would be absolutely fine, makes it easy. And then I also make a breadcrumb crust to make it a crispy crust. I've made it both ways. This is my preference, but either way works great. And if you're gluten-free, especially, this is the way to do it. So some breadcrumbs, some little salt, heat up the pan. I've made this a few different ways. One, like a little hors d'oeuvre size, which is like kind of a tablespoon or maybe a tablespoon and a half full. He says 3/4 of an inch thick. That has to do with cooking. But I've made them much bigger as a dinner-sized fritter. Then they go into a nice hot bubbly oil. Of course, if I was making more, I would have, the pan would be full of oil, maybe a 1/4 inch deep. So these cook for about 2 minutes on each side. Oh yeah, absolutely delicious. These can be cooked off the day before. They can be served, just heat them up for just a minute, maybe in the oven at like 350, or served cold with a fresh spritz of lime, and they are absolutely fantastic. The other finger food that we're doing today is called a seeded chicken schnitzel. And I've made it many times and it's so delicious. I love it so much. In fact, it's a seed and breadcrumb mix that I double the recipe and I keep it in a jar. And that way I have it. It's also good to coat fish, but today we're coating little thin chicken strips. So let's get started. We begin with 160 grams of panko. It's the end of this box. One of the things I do, especially with Ottolenghi, is I pull out all of the ingredients ahead of time, because he uses so many spices and different things. It creates way less confusion. And then 120 grams of white sesame seeds, which are so easy. Just go back to 0. 120 grams. And then he has 2 tablespoons, or 4, it would be equivalent to 4 tablespoons of black sesame seeds, which I've never been able to find just in the store. So I just add more white and it's always been fine. Next after this are sunflower seeds. It is 80 grams of sunflower seeds. Again, take the scale back down to 0, pour in 80 grams. Okay, and then the next thing, which is kind of unique and interesting, it's 3 tablespoons of coriander seed and lightly crushed. So I take the seed and put it in a Ziploc. Okay, just roll it. Lightly crushed coriander seed, which was so much fun. I always think it's funny, like 2 teaspoons of ground turmeric, this is a half teaspoon, I'm mounding them, and 1 teaspoon of cayenne. This is something that you can decide to add or not add. It does add quite a bit of heat. Actually, it was 1. Here's the fun part. Just can stir right up into the measuring cup. Forgot the salt, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And then the reason why I put it in the pouring measuring cup is because it goes right into my airtight jar. For the chicken, I love this organic chicken that I buy at Costco, the Kirkland brand. It comes in a 3-pack, and I bring it home, cut the 3 packs, cut them in thirds, put them in freezer bags and put them in the freezer, and then thaw overnight, which I did last night. And I take out the breasts and cut through, kind of hold the breast down, cut through the middle so that each portion of the breast is maybe a 1/2 inch thick or 3/4 inches thick. I have a few pieces here that I've already cut. So they're like little fingers of chicken breast. Now it's assembly line time. On parchment paper, I put some white flour. The reason why I flour on parchment paper is because, you know, when you try to wash flour off of a bowl, it gets gummy. This way you just kind of throw the whole thing away. And then a little salt and pepper on the flour, or stirred into the flour. The next bowl is going to be breaking an egg, because I'm only just making a few pieces. If you make a large batch, it would be 2 eggs. And then portion out the seed and breadcrumb mix into the third bowl. And then here's the fun part. For this recipe, I really like avocado oil into the fry pan, into the saute pan. Start with a nice medium heat. And while that's heating, the chicken goes into the flour mixture. Ottolenghi doesn't put water in with the egg bath, and it actually does make a difference. And it's time to get messy here. I make a sauce for Tommy. It's honey mustard, and I start with mayonnaise, Best Foods. I do about a tablespoon or 2, depending on how much he plans to eat. And then half as much of Dijon mustard. And then depending on how sweet I feel like making it, just a squeeze of honey. The beautiful thing of this is you can create your own proportion based on how spicy you want the Dijon to be, or how much Dijon goes in, and then of course the honey for the sweet. And you could just play with it, always just take a little taste. A little more honey. Okay, I think we're ready to plate up the food. Pretty. Beautiful bowl of sauce, hot, crispy chicken schnitzel with a seeded breadcrumb crust. It's absolutely delicious. I cooked the chicken to show you how it's made. However, tonight I will take the chicken breast out of the freezer, put it into the fridge, thaw it overnight, cut these strips in the morning. I have the coating, the seeded breadcrumb mixture already prepared, so I'll just have to cook it off along with the shrimp and corn fritters, and we'll be ready before the guests arrive. All I'll have to do is maybe toss a salad, have Tommy help open some wine, and we are ready to enjoy our family, swimming, and just an easy day. Nobody wants to be in a hot kitchen in the summertime, so I can even get everything done in the morning, which is wonderful. There's nothing like planning ahead and having everything ready, because then you can show up to your own party and enjoy it just as much as your guests. Once again, it's always a pleasure being with you and sharing some fun recipes, and I hope to see you again soon.